Up next on the show is Ed Begley Jr., and he's calling in from Los Angeles. Ed, welcome to the show.
Don, it's so good to be with you again.
So this is exciting. I'm holding in my hand a picture of you. Maybe you're maybe 5 or 6 years younger, but this is the cover of your book, Ed Begley Jr., and it is To the Temple of Tranquility and Step on It. I love this. It starts out, the book is, you're kind of in your dad's car. My dad drove a Pontiac station wagon, 1968, that had like the wood panels on the side. Tell us about the beginning of this book.
It starts with me at my dad's business manager's office. He's inside with his business manager getting a document that I really need to get my hands on. That document is my birth certificate because I'm 15 and a half, and this on the very day I'm 15 and a half in the state of California, you can get something called a learner's permit. And I really wanted to get that so I could begin to learn to drive. I had been driving in the subterranean garage where we lived before that, but out in the streets and what have you, you could drive if you had an adult in the car with you who had a California license in their hand. But you could also drive alone and unsupervised if you were riding a motorcycle. So me and my friend Dave Goodman had intended to rent motorcycles. We did not own motorcycles. We're going to rent them, and we're going to, drive around and hopefully get some air with our motorcycles and go up over hill the way Steve McQueen did in The Great Escape and stuff like that. There are other movies. There was this movie star who's in all these Corman movies, and he rode motorcycles too. His name was Jack Nicholson, and we just wanted to be like Jack Nicholson in every way, and that started an acting career that began a few years later. But it all started that day where I got a big surprise looking at my birth certificate.
Well, one thing that's interesting, you talk about Jack, right? So in your book, instead of just doing a traditional interview, because a lot of people are going to interview you about this book, I decided I was going to randomly circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the chapters. And when I say the name of the chapter, I want you to either give me the first thing that comes to your mind or some type of word association. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Well, we could start with that. You don't know Jack.
That, as you might suspect, is about the wonderful actor Jack Nicholson, who I idolized as a teenage young man and got to meet in 1972 through the wonderful singer Cass Elliot, who I got to meet through Cindy Williams and Harry Geddes. So it's just a matter of being at the right place at the right time, and that's what I was my whole life. I'm like Forrest Gump, or I'm like Zelig, that movie where this guy's in the background of all these important historical events, or maybe I'm like Chauncey Gardner. I'm not sure, but I get to be around these incredible events, and I'm not sure how I got there.
Well, and here's this one. You ready? The next one is, if the plug don't fit. What is the if the plug don't fit?
That one is about my friendship with an actor and a sports figure by the name of O.J. Simpson. He and I were friendly for years. I had no idea of the spousal abuse that was going on. Many of his friends didn't. LA Police Department knew about it, certainly, because they've been summoned several times. So I got to be friendly with him, and then he split up and what have you. And we commiserated over that because I had divorced my wife. But I used to go to his house and plug in my electric car there near where Cato Kalin heard the thumps jumping over that wall. That's where I used to charge my electric car. So it's about discovering that a person you knew very well had some demons that you were not aware of.
I think that happens maybe both in both coasts. I guess it can happen to any of us, but especially out in Los Angeles because so many actors, they're playing other roles, they're playing other people, right? A lot of plastic surgery, a lot of things happen in Los Angeles. No disrespect to Los Angeles. And then same thing here with New York. And you just don't know because a lot of times crazy things have happened here in New York as well. And somebody's like, I never suspected that person to be able to behave that way, right? This book, what I did like about it, Ed, is that it is poignant. There are these like life tales in it. You've been a vegetarian. How old were you when you decided to become a vegetarian?
It was 1970, the year of the first Earth Day, and it was at that event I went, I hear that diet is connected to the environment. If you eat a lot of meat. There's a lot of methane involved coming out of both ends of the cow and what have you. And it takes more land and water and everything to grow a pound of beef more than it does to make a pound of broccoli or tofu or something. So I started eating more plant food. I quickly became a vegetarian and liked it. So vegetarian dining was not much back in 1970. There was a few restaurants, and now there are many, many restaurants. You can go to nearly any, let's call it a normal restaurant, and you can get vegetarian or indeed even vegan fare in many restaurants today. It's gotten a lot easier.
Coleman.
Coleman is about a wonderful man by the name of Dabney Coleman, a great actor. I met him on the set of Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. Then he was on Forever Fernwood. He and Marion Mercer were a couple on that show, and I just was blown away by their work because they were doing comedy differently than I had been doing it prior to that, differently than anybody I knew was doing it. They were playing these comedy scenes like one would do Chekhov or Ibsen. They played it totally straight. There was never any, here come the gags, comedy leanings in the work. It was just done brilliantly I get to be in movies with people like Peter Falk and Alan Arkin who did the same thing, or a great movie called Midnight Run, written by George Gallo, that great movie, Marty Brest movie with Bob De Niro and with my dear friend Charles Grodin. None of those movies I cited in that TV show with Dabney or any of Dabney's work on film or on TV was ever done for laughs. It was done totally straight, and in so doing, it had bigger laughs than any scene I'd ever seen when you view it.
Talk about big laughs. You're actually going to be taking this book on tour with you. You're going to be like performing some things live. Are you excited about that?
It was fun writing the book, and I'll be honest with you, it wasn't a lot of work. Every day I was looking forward to getting back to the keyboard because the keyboard became for me like a Ouija board that actually worked.
Wow.
I'm starting to type over here. What happened to my dead aunt? Wait, it's talking about my cousin Timmy who died and he fell through the ice in a lake or whatever the hell. But I don't think Ouija boards work. I think they're all baloney. But the keyboard becomes, writing something like this, a Ouija board that does work, because you open one old musty door to a hallway you haven't been down in years, and that wind from opening that door, the pressure changes in the house and in the hallway, and it blows open three other doors you didn't even know existed anymore. They were forgotten to you. And that's the way it was writing this book. I look forward to every day doing it, and I hope I get to write another one.
And then there's two more chapters we're going to highlight. One is called Mother Superior.
That's about getting to know who my mother was. My real mother was a woman named Aileen Sanders. She passed away in 1998, and I fortunately got to know her. Though she was my birth mother, she left when I was about a year old, and I was raised by my stepmother. It turns out the woman I thought was my mother was my stepmother. She died when I was 7, and I long regarded her as my full mother, my birth mother. But I learned that day getting my birth certificate. That was the reveal in that first chapter. The big reveal is that my birth certificate is blank, which begged the question of my dad driving the car and me in the back seat. Dad, why is there no mother's name on the birth certificate? And his answer was, because Amanda wasn't your mother. Mind blown.
Wow.
But
wow.
Then we got to meet and have it our life.
Yeah, you dedicated the book, right? There's 3 people that you dedicated the book to. And this is your mother, and then Jeanette, and then Bruno, correct?
Yeah, I dedicate the book actually to my sister, whose name is Aileen too. Aileen, my sister. Jeanette Pierre, who really is the subject of the chapter. I was building to that, but I'm glad you got to it in a better way than me. Her name is Jeanette Pierre. She came to us for hire. She was doing a job for which she was paid, but she was there for much more than a job. A wonderful woman from Alsace-Lorraine who'd seen what the Germans had done. And she, though from Alsace-Lorraine, she certainly sided with the French, was part of the French resistance, a heroic woman. And she changed my life and my sister's life for the better. And I also dedicated to Bruno Kirby, and, a wonderful, wonderful guy who taught me a great deal about being a friend.
And the last one that I circled, because I actually literally just kind of randomly circled these chapters, Ed, is Jerry Lee Lewis.
The last chapter of the book, I began saying, This chapter is not about Jerry Lee Lewis. I've never met Lee Lewis. And nothing that I've written here has anything to do with Jerry Lee Lewis. We have nothing in common, with the exception of the fact, what do Jerry Lee Lewis and Ed Begley have in common? And the answer is there's a whole lot of shaking going on. Because I discovered in 2016 that I indeed have Parkinson's. All this stuff was happening to me that I didn't understand, different health changes. And I discovered in 2016 I had it. And here it is, 7 years later, 7 years and a month later, and I'm doing great. This is what you can have today. You know, if you do all the right kinds of treatments. I do all the AMA prescribed medicine changes, you know, like carbidopa, levodopa. And I also do NAD, I do glutathione, hyperbaric chamber, oxygen-rich hyperbaric chamber, and vigorous exercise every day, and stem cells, and all this stuff that I'm doing has made me be very, very healthy in the face of this difficult disease.
I was so elated when Anthony had mentioned to me that I would be able to interview you. I respect you so much. And, you know, I like the fact that we kind of focused on your book. I could spend 3 hours talking to you about your entertainment career. But right now we're putting that information on pause and we're going with the book. So continued, beautiful, amazing journeys. Thank you for writing this. I think that it's very inspirational. I got a chance to like go through and read some of the different chapters, and it's, I don't know, it's something special. It's a gift that you're bringing forth, and so authentic and so real. There's stories in here about a ton of people, the Beatles. There's all kinds of like these really cool things. So I won't divulge all the book, but thank you for going through a few of the highlights of the chapters. Is there anything, Ed, that you would like to share with me? Because I know you were expecting just a typical interview where it was going to be like, oh, this is your book and la-di-da. But I just wanted to have a conversation with you. So what's on your mind?
Well, the thing I would emphasize, and thank you for mentioning that, what I would like to emphasize the book is actually the second chapter, which is called Watt's Line. Like you might, I don't know if you're probably not old enough to remember that. Something called a Watt's Line, which was a unlimited use telephone line you could use if you were in phone sales or something, selling toner cartridges and pens, you know, over the phone to people. People would get a Watt's line to do phone sales and pay just one bill for all the calls you needed to make. But also with two T's, WATTS, it's a line from the great philosopher and thinker and brilliant man called Alan Watts. He was a writer, wrote many books, Cloud Hidden, and many wonderful books, not the least of which is a book called This Is It. And if you're in an open frame of mind, open to having some measure of enlightenment or awareness, and you really heard the words of the title, which is This Is It. Donna, this is it. This moment right now with you and I is all we have. I'm not saying the past did not occur, nor do I say we shouldn't plan for the future. You must remember the past and plan for the future, but don't spend a lot of time dwelling in the past or the future. Focus on right now. This moment right now with you is perfectly sublime. I have everything that I need. I don't have everything I want, but I have this moment from you, and it just became totally real because I'm engaged in it, not thinking, what am I going to do after this interview? Let's wrap it up. I've got to go to the grocery store. My transmission needs repair, or whatever these thoughts that come to our minds. Put those thoughts aside and open your mind to what's happening right now. Do what's before you, which is talking to a wonderful woman who I know and love, and it's just great to be here with you, Donna.
It was so nice to see you again. And yes, and Tranquility is right here in the title, To the Temple of Tranquility, and step on it. Ed Begley Jr., thank you so much, and happy journeys to you, my friend.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, be well. Bye-bye.